Check out one of the very first formation / data sheets for a box set from Games Workshop. This is straight out of the 90s. It's the Dark Angels Ravenwing Attack Force. Spiky bits. All right, welcome back, Hobby Maniacs. Baer here again with you today. Now this, everybody knows today you can get those start collecting boxes, you can get those bundle deals, you can get those army deals, all that stuff, and they always come with data sheets and, you know, everything you need to play the models that come in it in a specific formation. But what if I told you that this isn't the first time Games Workshop did that? What if I told you that Games Workshop used to put the rules in with their army boxes back in the day? Well, that's exactly what I'm telling you. Back in the 90s, there was all sorts of army boxes and battle forces and bundle deals as well. Way back in the day. One of them was the Dark Angels Ravenwing Attack Force, which you can see here. The bikes haven't really changed much since back then. Of course, the land speeder has. The old metal land speeder went to a plastic one, which wasn't that great. The tops didn't really attach well together. Then they got the new redesigned one that we have today. The bikes pretty much haven't changed. I think they redesigned it just to get it into the CAD and made the back rider section a little bit easier to assemble. Now, they don't have these little bits, these little pewter bits like the sword and the plasma gun and the multi-gun anymore for those guys. You have to kind of make that yourself. But the bikes are pretty much the same. They do come on bases though now. The Chaplain here was another upgrade, pewter upgrade set from back in the day, along with the attack bike. This is the old metal attack bike, believe it or not. It looks the same, I know, but it is not. That is the metal one. So once you open this thing up, you'll kind of get what I'm saying as far as the rules go, right? So you've got basically the rules for playing the game. And remember, they didn't have a lot of things in the actual rules themselves because your save was determined by your war gear, which was basically, hey, I have power armor, here's my save. Hey, I have terminators. Oh, well, you only failed that on a 3-up on 2d6, or what was it, 2d6? I think it was 2d6. So it was basically if you rolled a 3 or less on 2 dice, you took a wound with a Terminator, if I remember correctly. I forget what it was for normal Space Marines, but this all is looking in line here. So if we do see a new Age of Sigmar kind of shift in the rules where they take away ballistic skill and weapon skill and just make it 2 hit and 2 wound, that'll be really interesting because they're literally replacing rules that have been around for over 20 years, right? Because this is, you know, from the 90s right here. Of course, they had all the special rules, all the things. Hey, look, Jink, that was around back then. Rapid fire, expert riders, break tests, all that stuff. Immunopsychology. Psychology was actually a big thing back in the day. You could just like straight run off the board from virus bombs and things like that. It was super nuts. Back in the, there was like a game within a game before the game, and then you had the psychic phase, which was like another game in the game. You played games of 2nd edition, basically took the afternoon, kind of like almost like an apocalypse game, but nothing of that size. Like you could have never played a game that big back then because it would literally take a week. You'd have to leave all the stuff out. And then here's the attack force where they basically say, hey, this is this many points, this is this many points. All of that stuff make basically into here. Oh, Veteran Sergeant Samuel, I guess he got a promotion, didn't he? Hey dog, you did really good. We're gonna get you a new bike. It's all good. Here's the Ravenwing Army list itself, which again, a lot of familiar stuff here. The points don't quite match 100%, of course. Neither do the stats, but they're very similar. Very similar. Of course, the attack bike received a 2 wound bonus upgrade and went to a 3-up save. I can't remember much about it back then, but like I said, everything was incredibly overcomplicated, but less complicated than the Rogue Trader RPG kind of way of playing from the first rulebook in the 80s there, right? So then here's the data sheets that you could literally cut out, paste together, and you had those from the table. So that's like, you know, that's why I'm so, you know, such an advocate for having those game helping aids on the table, so you can basically be like, oh, I got this card, I got this unit, what's my stats? Don't have to look it up on my phone, don't have to look it up in my book, everything's right there, and I can just kind of like, you know, you just look at it. Maybe I'm a visual learner, maybe I'm just reminiscent of the days of old, but either way, I want it. But don't let me sell you on it. If you think it's stupid, hey, that's cool too. But this is basically how it was. And remember, back in the day, there was all of these things that affected vehicles differently. Like you had to roll locations, you had to roll different effects, like different damage tables for the land speeder. The crews were damaged separately. Like when you shot a smoke grenade, you basically had to do like you do now with a barrage. You basically had to scatter it out, and little puffs of smoke went here and there in front of vehicles. It was crazy. It was a crazy fun time. But when you look back at it today, you can never, fly to Chicago and play a, 5-round tournament in any sort of manageable time using these old rules here. And then there's the attack bike as well on the back. Bike damage table. Both twin bolters are destroyed. The heavy weapon is destroyed. And you can see here, things were a lot different too. Like you had short ranges, you had long ranges. The damage was 2d12s on a multi-multi, right? So like it was all sorts of stuff. Armor pens, save modifiers. Yeah, that was the thing in 40K. That's why they didn't have it listed, because remember, each set of armor, you had these war gear cards too. You'd be like, oh, I got power armor, and you could have this war gear card down on the table and it told you what it did. Crack grenade, 2d6 times 2. Like a lot of things, 2-inch blast markers. That's things we don't see now. You used to have a whole kit of markers and templates and tokens. The psychic phase box was a completely separate box in and of itself, and it had even more stuff that you needed to keep track of. It was pretty crazy, but again, it was crazy in a good way because it was super fun, and I kind of miss a lot of those days. But fast forward 30 years later, 20 years later, not quite manageable in some of the formats we play these days. So that was my look, flashback to the old Dark Angels Ravenwing attack force. Errors, clarifications, omissions. Do you know more about second edition than I do? It's quite possible. Leave it in the comments below.
Deleted scenes, bonus content, and all the interviews and post-game wrap-up videos can be located in the Hall of Veterans on thelongwar.net. Visit thelongwar.net today and try a week completely free with no strings attached. That's not all. TheLongWar.net is also your hobby resource for exclusive early access with an ad-free experience to all your favorite videos. Members of the Hall of Veterans gain early exclusive access to multiple hobby videos.